Two Rotarians podcast, and you'll notice that there's more than two of us. There's three. Hey, we have a guest again for this episode. I'm David Cobb.
I'm Ken Cooley.
And this is
Ralph Zuke.
Hey! And so we are getting together today and we're talking a little bit, and Ralph is with us because Ralph did a really interesting fundraiser. And you want to go ahead and kind of talk about that a little bit and what you did?
Essentially, I did a bike ride from Fairview Heights, Illinois to Toronto, Canada for the International Convention to raise awareness and to raise funds for the eradication of polio.
And there's some people out there that cycle, I cycle, and you would think, okay, yeah, that's a doable bike ride. But this is a doable bike ride, and Ralph just, he took it up here. Because attached to his bike on the way to Toronto was what he refers to as the Barcalounger Rickshaw. Explain a little bit about what that is.
So essentially it's a chair mounted on two wheels that's off the back of my bike. I built it. It was designed after a 1950s style Barcalounger. So think of a lazy boy chair. Mm-hmm. Just lazy boy rickshaw ride just doesn't roll off the tongue as well as Barcalounger. So
sure, I think it sounds great.
And it had it just had a funner feel to it when you say Barcalounger Rickshaw.
He said funner.
Hey, public school education.
I understand.
So, basically we built it, put it on the back of the bike, and it ended up, it weighed 113 pounds, which when I didn't know that until the ride was over, which I'm quite grateful for not knowing that. It explained why every little hill seemed like a mountain. And the lucky thing for me was when I had announced that I was planning to do this, I had not looked at a map to see what the topography is between Fairview and Toronto. And all I can say is I'm one of the luckiest people you'll ever meet, because Illinois is pancake flat across there. There was just a few hills in Indiana and a couple in Ontario, and that was it. And there was no mountains. I can say there were 4 memorable hills. One of them, luckily, I was only going downhill on it, so that was okay.
Oh my God.
And, which did lead to the only flat tire I had, because it was a gravel road, and I didn't realize that you're going downhill and you're hitting the brakes trying to keep your control, but the lounger doesn't have brakes, so it kept trying to jackknife me.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm about halfway down the hill. I'm trying not to wreck, and finally I'm like, I'm just gonna have to let go of the brakes and go with it all the way down. And I did hit a pretty good rock at the bottom. I kept going, and all of a sudden I'm like, that's something doesn't feel right. And I look back, and that was the only flat tire in the entire ride.
Wow, that's great.
Well, let me stop you right there, just for the record. If you do try to plan another trip, Dave, why don't you tell him what you do for a living?
What do you mean?
Mr. Maps?
Oh, yeah, I make maps.
Oh,
So,
I wish I did that earlier.
Yeah, I know. I could have helped you out with route planning. We would have looked at elevations and everything. Now, if you didn't want to know, I wouldn't have told you, but we could have figured something out.
Well, not to jump too far ahead, but I've already committed to going to Houston if polio is not eradicated. And quite honestly, as much as I would love to think it's going to be, I think realistically, it's not going to happen in time, because we have to have the 3-year window afterwards. So if there's any cases after May this year,
so what?
I'm riding to Toronto, or I'm riding to Houston.
What year is that?
That's 2022.
Yeah, it's
2022. Okay.
It's what is it? Germany this year.
Yep.
Hawaii, Japan, and then Houston.
Okay.
So hey, let me tell you here. This let me get a good
picture
of this. Oh, and I just lost the. There we go. This is the December issue of the Rotarian magazine. Look at this guy right here. Unbelievable! You're like a celebrity here.
Can I tell you, even taking that picture was pretty entertaining. The guy came down from Chicago. He basically said, he called up and he said, I'm coming down, we're going to take a picture, we're going to scope out some locations on Sunday, and do the photography on Monday. So I had already looked at a few places at Forest Park and at, this was done in Tower Grove Park. And so we drove around on Sunday, and he really decided he really liked this one spot in Tower Grove Park. And he goes, do I need to get a permit to do this? And I'm like, it'll be a Monday morning, who cares? No one's gonna worry about that. Besides, I'll wear my Rotary stuff, we'll get away with it. So we're in there, and he took probably 400 pictures at this location. I mean, he's just snapping them off. And it was a lot of fun to talk to. So we're doing these pictures, and we're probably about an hour into it. And we noticed this one car stop on the road and kind of looked at us for a minute and then took off. And so I didn't think anything of it. And then the park ranger truck stops. And it was about that time I also looked, and off to my left at the entrance to the park is the Columbus statue. And it was Columbus Day. And there were protesters. And so I think they were afraid that we were there for the protest. Sure. And so they kind of came and they're like, what are you doing? We're like, taking pictures? Do you have a permit?
What's going on?
No. And we're like, we are almost done. And the guy kind of, I think, decided that we weren't part of the protest. So yeah, so he was like, okay. So he let us finish up, and he was very nice about it. But I felt kind of goofy about it. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't really think it would be a big deal, and it wouldn't have been had it not been for the protest 100 yards away from us. So
what were some of the crazy stories that happened to you on the road?
I would say probably there were stories that were just crazy things that happened, and then there were stories of people stepping up and doing things that blew me away. So we'll start with crazy things that happened. The first driver, so I had 3 drivers who helped me out along the way, ride the SAG vehicle with the trailer. And the first guy, Dwayne Tiggs, is this great guy, built the trailer. He's just a phenomenal person. So the first night we had ridden from Fairview to Staunton, Illinois, and it was incredibly hot. It was 112 heat index. We're out in the blazing sun most of the day. I was really pretty wiped out at the other day, and a friend of mine in New Douglas had said, yeah, you can come stay at our house for the night. So I was like, great. So we get to their house, and they serve us a really nice dinner, and so that I was pretty bushed. So I went to bed pretty early. Well, Tig stayed up, and the house we stayed at, they had a daughter who was 17 who, she and Tiggs talked in the kitchen, and I'd wake up at 5 in the morning and get ready to start, and they're still talking. And I'm like, did you get any sleep? He goes, nah. And I'm like, you'll be okay? He goes, yeah. So we get going. So the second day, the big challenge was that we were going through a lot of cornfields and stuff, and I had no signal on my phone part of the time. So my GPS was essentially useless. And when it would finally ping in, if I had made a wrong turn, it would already correct it. So I wouldn't know unless I looked at how many miles I still had to go, and all of a sudden it'd be like, wait a minute, I only had 40 to go, now I have 44 to go. So I knew I made a wrong turn. I'm like, oh, man. And there was this one point where I can see, I can't remember the town north of Staunton. It's one of the bigger sort of truck stop towns.
North Staunton?
North of Staunton.
North of Staunton, yeah.
And I could see the town across these cornfields, but we couldn't get to it. And so you're doing all these 90-degree turns through these fields, and Tiggs is like right behind me, and I know he's back there, even though it's hard for me to turn and look because he's got the window down and he's singing away. And so we'd done a series of these 90-degree turns, and I decided I'm going to stop and grab some Gatorade, and so I get off the bike, I walk back to him, and he goes, what's up? I said, I'm just getting something to drink. So I get something to drink, and he goes, man, I got to tell you, he goes, I fell asleep back there. What do you mean? He goes, yeah, a couple turns back, I fell asleep, and I hit a big pothole, and it freaked me out. It's like, oh my God, I hit Zuke. So I told him that point, I said, stay a little farther back.
Oh my God.
So it was just pretty funny. That was just one of those crazy, like, maybe you shouldn't tell me that.
Yeah.
And then on the art, like the stories that I'll remember, one of the ones I love the best is we ended up changing our route sort of in northern Illinois a little bit because we discovered the town that I thought we could stay in, didn't have a Rotary Club, didn't have a hotel, didn't have a restaurant. It had nothing. It was a tiny little town, and we just didn't know that. So we decided to go a little bit more to the west, and it put us into a town that apparently wasn't in one of the districts that we had notified that we were coming through. And so at this point, my niece was the driver in the SAG vehicle, Ariel, and she immediately gets online, starts looking up where the Rotary clubs are around here, and starts making phone calls. So she gets this one woman who answers the phone, and she goes, "Hey, my uncle is doing a bike ride for Rotary. He's a Rotarian with a Barcalounger Rickshaw, and we're trying to see if you know of anyone in your club who'd be willing to post up for the night." And the woman's kind of like, "What?" You know, this is a scam, isn't it? You know, and so she's like, "Okay." So Ariel's like, "Look, let me put my uncle on the phone. He'll tell you more about it." So at the same time, the woman goes, "I'm going to put my husband on the phone."
Sure.
So I get on the phone, and again, it's another hot day. I'm pretty wiped out. We're next to a highway, so I can barely hear. And the guy goes, "So what's your name?" And so I told him. He goes, "And what you doing?" I said, "Well, we're riding a Barcalounger Rickshaw from St. Louis to Toronto." And he goes, "I haven't heard anything about this." I'm thinking, well, that's weird. At the time, I didn't know we were in a different district.
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, you know, we have a Facebook page. Take a look at it." And he goes, "Well, what's Rotary's logo? Or not logo, we call it the service above self." But
like the theme.
There's a name for it in particular. It's I'm going blank. But he goes, what do you call that when you have a
Motto?
Yeah, motto. What's Rotary's motto? Thank you. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm hot, I'm tired, I can barely hear him. I'm like, motto. I'm like, "You mean like the 4-way test?" He goes, No, the motto. And I'm just going blank. And I go, "To have fun?" He goes, "Close enough." He goes, "Service above self." I'm like, "Yeah, it's on my card." You know? I just had totally blanked out. So we talked for a few minutes, and I said, "Look, go ahead and take a look at the website. I totally get you have no idea who we are.
Yeah.
And take a look at it. If you can find somebody, if not, it's no problem staying in a hotel. I didn't mind doing that once in a while, so it was like, that's fine." So 10 minutes later, I get a phone call back saying, "Yep, come to our house. We'll take you in for the night." So I was like, great. So we got to the house, and he goes, "Look, we're going to take you out to dinner, and got a bunch of our Rotary clubs coming, the members coming." I was like, "Oh, cool." So we get to this restaurant. There's probably 15 or 20 Rotarians there. And so I did sort of a little program for them about what I was doing, because clearly they were in the Chicago district, and we didn't expect to be over there. So, told them what was going on, and then after having a nice dinner, good conversation, we go back to their house, and a couple of the Rotarians came back, and we were going to have ice cream, and it was any house I stayed in, I always gave the host a ride in a rickshaw, and gave them the t-shirts that say "Official Barcalounger Rickshaw Crash Test Dummy for the Eradication of Polio." So it was always, give them a ride, give them a shirt. So we get outside, I get the rickshaw set up for them and give a bunch of them a ride. And at the end, this one guy comes over to me and he hands me a check. And he goes, "Hey, do you mind if I ride the bike?" I'm like, "No, go ahead." And so he gets on the bike and he does this little loop around the road. And he comes back. I mean, he didn't go very far at all. He gets back, he gets off the bike, and he looks at me and goes, "I think I need to write you a bigger check."
You realize how hard you were working.
So it was a lot of fun. That was just such an enjoyable evening. We had a great conversation. So apparently the husband was a past district governor.
Okay.
And it was great. We had this conversation. It was only in Rotary about about using the bathrooms on the trains in India. So my niece has traveled in India extensively. And so she knew exactly. So one guy is actually literally squatting on the floor, showing us how you have to use the bathroom on a train. And I'm rolling. I'm like, where else would you have this conversation?
Right.
But it was a really wonderful night. They were great people, great hosts. And actually, every place I stayed, there was a story. I mean, there was a farmer in Ontario. Again, it was on our night. We really didn't have a place set up to stay. And the district governor that we stayed with the night before, it was out of his district, but he knew there was a club at one time in this next town that we were going to. And so he looked it up, he found the guy, and he called him up, and apparently the club was no longer in existence. And that this was the last president of the club. He had folded, and it was, so we're telling him what I'm doing. He's kind of skeptical about it. Yeah. And you can tell he's an older gentleman. And so finally he was like, yeah, I think I have room. Why don't you go ahead and come on here? And David was his name. Such a nice guy. So he's a raspberry farmer. And he had the most beautiful farm. I'm like, this is just beautiful. I mean, everything about it. And that's like, and I would say the guy was probably in his late 70s, early 80s, and extremely active. And I mean, I was like, man, yeah, I guess farming keeps you young. Because, So anyway, again, we get there, and it was the end of a long ride day. I think I'd done about 60 miles that day. And so when we got there, I said, do you mind if I just lay down and take a nap for a little bit? And Kevin King was my driver at that time. And he, one of the things we discovered was that Google Maps kept putting me on gravel roads, which totally suck. I would rather ride an extra 10 miles to avoid a mile of gravel road. So Kevin and David sat down in the kitchen, and they went over the maps because David knew the area. And he said, no, you want to go over here. And so he's working with Kevin on that. And I'm taking a nap. And finally, I wake up, I go down, and David's like, I'm going to give the dog, take him for a quick walk. And so I said to Kevin, well, how's it going? He goes, well, I think we got a good route for you tomorrow. He's been real helpful. He goes, man, I haven't been able to get the guy to smile the whole time. I said, well, let me see if I can work on that. So David came back in. I said, David, it'd be my honor if I can give you a ride in the rickshaw. And he kind of looked at me a little skeptical, and he goes, oh, okay. So we go out, we get the rickshaw ready, we get him into it, and I start to ride, and I'm not kidding, like 10 seconds into the ride, the guy's giggling. And he's just like, this is so funny, it's so goofy. And it's like, and so at the end, I also gave him the shirt, and I was like, okay, we made his evening, and I was really, really happy about that. So the next morning we got up very early because we knew it was going to be another really hot day, and I'm like, let's try to get a bunch of miles in before it gets baking. And he had gotten up early and made this beautiful spread of food, including raspberries and strawberries from his farm, and it was just super nice. But he was wearing the T-shirt, and I was like,
now we're talking.
Awesome. Like I said, almost every place I stayed, I could tell you a story about the people that I met, and they were all just absolutely spectacular.
And I was following the Facebook page as you were going along, and you would see the pictures that you would post with the Rotary groups that you'd stop and talk to and give rides, and you'd have the pictures up, and so it was kind of neat seeing all these different areas and who you got to talk to, and it must have just been an amazing experience.
It really was, and it wasn't. It was great meeting all the Rotarians, and I will say the one thing that again was my goal was to educate people about polio. Well, Rotarians by and large know a lot about polio.
Yeah, sure.
I was shocked that outside of Rotary, nobody knows that polio is still a thing. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things I think that I felt we did a really good job, was telling people that yes, it is still a thing. This is why it's important. The best part is when I get somebody in the chair, they're a captive audience. So they have to listen to me for a little while, And so my job was to educate them about polio and about Rotary. And, I'm hoping, actually, I can guarantee that at least 2 people now have become Rotarians because of the ride. That's 2 of the 3 drivers.
Yeah.
we'll get Ariel soon. She'll eventually become a Rotarian, but we're working on that.
That's cool.
Kevin King will be one of the founding members of the new St. Louis Club. So, and same with Dwayne Tiggs. So, I think they really liked, because they got to go to all the meetings.
Yeah.
That I was going to. Tiggs was on the radio with me, and he was great. I was like, he just added so much color to the conversation. I really enjoyed that he came into when we were in Decatur, we had three radio interviews and a TV interview. And on the last radio interview, they said, well, yeah, why don't you come on in with us? And he was like, sure. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. And what was kind of fun about that is he was also constantly taking pictures. Yeah. Actually, he and Kevin both did a lot of pictures. It was hard for me to do that. Mm-hmm. And they both did a lot of pictures while I was riding. So a lot of the things that you saw was actually from both of them. So, but it was like I said, it was so much fun.
So how many days did the actual trip end up being?
It was 22 days.
22, okay.
And it was 703 miles. It was originally going to be closer to 800 miles, but I'll tell a story that not a whole lot of people know about.
Is this going to be one of those I jumped on a bus for 3 days?
No, it's far stupider than that. So I had just gotten done riding 5 days. I was in Niles, Michigan, staying with a couple who was, again, exceptionally nice couple. They had a house on the lake with a nice boat. And we were talking, and they were like, I'm like, hey, do y'all water ski? And they go, yeah, well, we what is it? It's not water skiing, it's a board. It's
wakeboarding?
Yeah. And they go, but we have water skis. And I had water skied years and years ago. I'm like, that'd be fun. It's beautiful. It's a nice evening. Not thinking that, I just got done riding 250 miles with a rickshaw the last 5 days, that maybe a day of rest would be smart. But I didn't ever claim to be real smart. So so they're like, hey, we'll take you out on the boat and you can go water skiing. I'm like, awesome. So we get out on the boat, and I'm all ready, and they hit the gas. I start to come up, and all of a sudden my skis cross, and I go down hard, and I pull a hamstring, and I pulled it pretty good. And so as I'm getting back into the boat, like, I'm done for the night, I'm thinking, well, I knew the next day was a scheduled day off. So I'm like, well, we'll work it, and hopefully I'll be ready to go the day after that. So I ended up losing 2 days of riding because I just couldn't get it to release and go.
Yeah.
And so on the second day, I get a call from Jill. She goes, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, not so good. She's like, what's wrong? I said, I got hurt. She's like, oh, what happened? I said,
well,
I got hit by a car.
Yeah, I should have just said that. Water skiing, and I could just tell she's thinking, you're not real bright, are you? And I'm like, no, this wasn't one of my smarter moves. But luckily, again, Rotarians stepped up. I ended up getting massages every day for like 4 days.
Wow.
And on the fourth day was really going to be one of the biggest rides. That was when I was going to cross the bridge into Windsor, and I was supposed to meet with the Windsor Club, go up. They had just built a Centennial Park, and I was actually going to be the first Rotarian to do a program there. So it's a really important day. And so I'm in Ann Arbor, and I get started that day, and I'm like, I have no idea whether my leg is really going to be able to go that far. I think it was like a 40 mile, maybe 35 mile day. It wasn't a long day. But still, it was like, I just didn't know how it would respond. And so I get on the bike, and about the first 4 miles, I'm feeling it. I'm like, this isn't feeling so good. But then all of a sudden, it was just like, all of a sudden, everything released. And I'm like, I'm good to go. And we did the whole rest of the trip. But the going into Windsor was a lot of fun. Everyone always asked about going across the Canadian border. And like I said, I had a trailer that Tiggs had built, and he uses it for camping. And he had a little stack of firewood on the back of it. And I kept thinking, I probably should get rid of that before we cross the border. And I totally forgot. And so we're on the bridge going across, And it occurs to me, like, oh man, we got the firewood back there. And so as we pull up to the booth where the guard's at, I see a sign, no firewood allowed. I'm like, oh man. So the guy comes up to the window. I had already handed Kevin my passport, and he goes, do you have any arms? And I go, what do you mean, like this? And he's,
they don't joke about it.
No, he had no sense of humor about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm in trouble now. So he goes, do you have anything to declare? And I said, we have a little bundle of firewood back there. I forgot to get rid of it while we were on the other side of the bridge. He goes, because that's a problem. He goes, you're going to need to pull over here and we're going to have to search your whole vehicle. So I'm like, okay. So we pull over to this sort of garage area. And all of a sudden, I see 6 guards coming out, putting on rubber gloves. I turn to Kevin, I go, I thought it was just the vehicle. So they come out, they instruct us to get out of the car, and we stand in front, and they go, stand in front of the car, don't even go around the sides. You stand in the front, all the doors are unlocked, and they proceeded to completely go over everything. And that was fine. I mean, other than the firewood, I didn't really have anything to worry about. So they get done searching it. They hand us this little yellow slip of paper. They said, you need to go in that door there and they'll decide whether you're allowed to come in the country. And I'm thinking, all right, it's already bad enough I had to call Jill once and say, I think I screwed up. Now if I can't get into the country and finish this ride, I'm really in trouble. So we go over and we go in and throughout the whole process, I must have been asked 20 times, what are you doing in Canada? I'm here for the Rotary International Convention. I'm doing a fundraising bike ride with a Barcalounger Rickshaw. I'm sure they were thinking, this guy's high.
You're right.
You know? And so, I explained it yet again. And so like 5 minutes later, somebody comes back out and they go, yep, you're good to go. So from there, I'm meeting the people from Windsor at the McDonald's, which is like 100 yards away. So we drive over, and we get there, and one of the people who had really been a big help on this ride, especially the part from Ann Arbor to Windsor, because I had apparently a very bad route to go through Detroit. And this guy gave me, I think you couldn't have given me a better route, other than the potholes, which I still give him a hard time about. You could not have given me a better route. And so he was there, and he's like, are you thirsty? I said, or are you hungry? And I said, well, I'm really thirsty. I just could go for some Sprite or something. So I go into the McDonald's, and I realize, wait a minute, I don't have any Canadian cash either. So he's like, it's okay, I got you. And so Russ and I are standing there, and all of a sudden I turn around, and all the people who had just searched my vehicle are standing right behind me. Apparently it was their lunch break. And of course I'm with like 20 Rotarians all in Rotary Polio gear.
Yeah.
And I turn, I go, I guess now you know I'm not lying. And they laughed. They were very nice. And they have a job to do. I totally got it. They were very typical Canadians. They were very pleasant, very nice, even when they're having to do stuff that's not pleasant and nice to do.
That's crazy, because like growing up back east in Connecticut, we would drive to Montreal or drive to Niagara Falls because you could cross the border, and when you were 18, the drinking age was 18 up in Canada. So we would go up there, and the only thing we ever got going up there was, hey, do you have any fruits or firearms? And we were like, no. Enjoy your trip to Canada. Coming back.
See, it was the exact opposite for me. Coming back, it was like we pull up to the booth where the guard is, and he's like, "Do you have anything to claim?" And at that point, we had been to a couple of breweries, a couple of distilleries. I'm like, "Yeah, I got half a dozen bottles of whiskey back there, and some beer." And he just like, "You're good." That was about it. It was like he did. He also asked. I guess he was asking, "How long have you been in Canada?" I said, "Well, I've been up here for." At that point, it was like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. But Danielle had only been there for a week because she flew into Toronto. And he's like, "Oh, did you pick her up here?" Yes, I did. So, for people who don't know, Danielle's my girlfriend who we've been dating for 8 years. She's 14 years younger than me.
8 years? What's the legal...
Yeah, I know.
Illinois?
Actually, I guess it's 7 years. But I better get that straight before she sees this.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah. I gotta do that math again.
Cooley, edit.
Thank you. So
that's crazy, dude.
So what was your longest ride? How long did you go in one day?
69 miles. That was Staunton to Springfield. It was supposed to be 64, but like I said, it's a long turns. I guess on Facebook you could watch the maps with it, and there was all these ones where I'd go and then backtrack, and then go and then backtrack, and it was like that was a rough day. In fact, the first 2 days were really hard. I remember 20 miles in on the first day when it was so hot, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the world were you thinking when you agreed to do this?
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to bring up too is, I've done a couple century rides and stuff, cycling, and I'll go out and I'll ride, 60, 75, whatever it is, how many ever miles in a day. And one of the things that a lot of cyclists like to talk about is the mental aspect of riding. And when you're on that bike, it's you and the bike.
Yeah.
And when you're going good, you're going good. And when it's going bad, it's going bad. And so the whole mental game comes into that, where you're having to tell yourself, I can do this. I don't know what I was thinking. Why am I doing this? This is great. I feel good. I feel terrible. What am I doing? Why did I ever have this idea? And you kind of go through all those emotions when you ride. And I can only imagine doing 22 days and 700
and in
miles.
a day, like if you had a long day, you break it down. Like I would get on the bike. I try to start early because again we were having a lot of heat issues. Start early, and I wouldn't look at my odometer for the first hour or two, and then I would stop at like a gas station. So that first 2 hours was always hard. But then the moment you stop someplace and people start coming up and they start asking you, what are you doing? Like what's this? And I'd take the cover off and I'd start giving people rides and I'd start telling about. Then the fun begins. That was the part, like from that part on, the rest of the day usually was pretty good. There was only one day at the end of the day I was having a real tough time. It was the only day we had rain, and it toasted my phone, and Kevin couldn't get a hold of me. He didn't know where I was, I didn't know where he was. It was quite challenging at points. And the last 15 miles of that ride, I remember thinking, man, this is the hardest, and it wasn't alley. That day might have been like a 48 or 50 mile day, but I was really wiped out on that day. And you have to gut it out. You get to a point where you say, and a lot of it was like, I just don't want to let people down.
Sure.
It's like, if I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make this happen. So the last 15 miles, there was one person, and I think both of y'all might know. She was a polio survivor, and I had met her at the district conference, I believe, the year before, or actually just a few months before the ride. Who's just an amazing woman, and she is a polio survivor who she's just kicking polio's ass, to be quite honest. She's just one of these people. She is not going to let that beat her. And I remember thinking about 15 miles from where I needed to finish up, and I'm like, something, I'm uncomfortable today. It wasn't one of my better riding days. I'm tired, I'm wet, I'm cranky, and I'm like, something, she has never stopped. I'm not going to stop. I want to make sure I get to where I need to be today. And there were people like her that I would think of, but it came down to is that I just didn't want to disappoint anyone.
Sure.
I wanted to do what I, give it everything I could possibly give it.
Yeah.
And, to do 703 miles, it's funny, as a lot of people initially were like, God, it's amazing. And for me, it was like, no, it's just what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very committed. I mean, I hope that I get to see polio eradicated, or I'm going to die doing it. And I really hope for the first one, because I really would like to be there, because I think that is going to be. I'm going to throw the biggest party you'll ever see.
Right.
When we finally can say polio is gone, and I'm going to invite everybody to it. So.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy you say that. I was at Land of Lincoln Pets this weekend for our 4 districts. I mean, it was amazing. But they had an iron lung at the convention center, and to just kind of figure, I mean, even the space. I've lost a ton of weight. You know, I'm not showing off or anything, but just to see the space that you would have to be to be in this.
So I saw that video.
Oh,
and I think that might have been a children's or a child's iron lung.
quite possible.
They had one in Springfield that was a good bit bigger, I think, than that one. It was a greenish colored one. And I remember that it is, when you see an iron lung for the first time, you're like, I don't ever want to see anyone have to be in this.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying thought.
I'm not a claustrophobic person, but just to see the way to live, it was just it's very it just hurts. It hurts to kind of.
There's still 2 or 3 people in the U.S. that are in iron lungs. I know one guy is in the Dallas area, and
I posted a video not too long ago that had the guy who went to law school.
Yeah,
and did
that's
all that.
the guy. Yep,
just unbelievable.
it is. And you know, he has done amazing things despite the challenges he's had to overcome.
Yeah,
Which is what I thought was so impressive about that video, was that he didn't let it stop him.
Yeah.
He kept doing stuff, and he still is, I believe. But that video, I think a lot of that was also about the fact that these things are getting to be old machines. There's not parts or serviceable, and I think there is now somebody who is taking care of his to keep it functioning.
He's got some steel fabricator or something that kind of, if a part breaks, he kind of welds it or figures it out. I mean, it's insane.
But you look at those things, and it's medieval. I mean, I just couldn't imagine thinking that this is where my life is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. I don't ever want to see anyone have to go through that. I mean, it's a scary thing. So, I want to see this done. I know there's some fatigue within Rotary because this has been going on for so long. And I'm hoping that, I can, at least on a local level, sort of rejuvenate people and tell them, look, we are incredibly close. One of the things I always told people on the ride was, when Rotary first started, there were 350,000 cases a year. So if you take a piece of paper and you set it down and you stack 350,000 pieces high, you have a pile of paper 148.5 feet tall. The year I did the ride, it was 22 cases for 2017. That's 1/10 of an inch. Mm-hmm. Because when you start getting big numbers, they become very abstract. You put it in that's something people can visualize very easily.
Right.
And realize that, by and large, that is the power of Rotary making that happen.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we've come an incredible long ways. I also remind people that while, I guess it's, 31 or 33 cases last year, I know there's been some fluctuation with that. Mm-hmm. And while that's a great low number, the problem is that's still 33 people whose lives have been greatly affected by a disease that we can eradicate. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure we get there, because it's just, if nothing else, when you leave this world, you want to at least feel like you've done some good. This is something that, as a Rotarian, I know we can do this, and it's going to be good. And so it's something I really want to strive for and make it happen. So that's why the Houston ride is going to happen. If we need to do it, I want to do it.
So your fundraising goal for the Toronto ride was $22,000 for the cases, and then what did you actually end up getting to?
We raised locally $24,000, and of course with the Bill and Melinda Gates kick in of 2 to 1, it was $72,000.
Oh,
that's amazing.
So
it's amazing.
So we always talk about, I always tell everybody to be that hero, but you're that hero.
We got one. You found one.
I know you're.
It's nice, but honestly, I'm just doing what I enjoy doing. I mean, the 2 things I really do like. I like biking and I like talking. So I'm pretty good. You're kind of hitting in my wheelhouse here. So I don't look at it as anything exceptional. It's what I do.
Yeah.
And I had an I would do it again in a heartbeat because I had so much fun doing it.
Well, so besides the Houston ride, if it's needed, what's next? Like, what are the other ideas you have to kind of keep? To kind of keep this polio, like you were talking about, and kind of keep it fresh in everybody's mind. Find different, maybe unique ways to get people engaged. Like, what are some of the things that you might have planned?
I'm working on, right now I'm doing a lot of going to Rotary clubs, both in Missouri and Illinois.
And sitting down doing stuff like this.
doing this. And that's a nice start, but I want to try to take it up another notch. To be quite honest, one of the things that we're kind of looking at is we're going to try to get onto a national show with the rickshaw. And there's one that seems like it would be a good fit, and I'm going to need help doing it, and that's to get on the Ellen DeGeneres show and give her a ride in the rickshaw.
Well, let's make it happen.
I think that is something that could happen.
So is there anybody out there who knows Ellen?
We'll try to make that happen.
So I think that would be absolutely a blast to do. I think she has the right personality to appreciate what it is, and I think it fits into some of the things that she does do.
Sure.
So,
Agreed.
and again, it's we as Rotarians have to do a few things. One is, we got to take credit for what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be proud of what we've done, and tell everyone, hey, we've done this, and we've done it because the power of the numbers. By myself, I couldn't do anything.
Right.
But within the power of what Rotary provides, you can do amazing things, and that's what I keep trying to tell people. This new club that I'm working on in St. Louis, I keep telling them, as an individual, you can do some things.
Yeah.
But now you bring in the network that you get through Rotary, and you can do amazing things. Things that I would have never thought about riding the Toronto or with a rickshaw.
yeah, with 100, it's not only that you put yourself on the bike and it's how much you weigh. The bike is weighing probably 20 something pounds, and then you add 112 or 113 pounds behind it, and you're like, wow, let's just step it up.
And I will say that then it's also a chair with a very large back, which some days was wind resistance. Now I will say, so I had a really rough first 2 days, and I was thinking when I was in Springfield, we were going from Springfield to Decatur the next day, and I gotta tell you, it was one of the best days ever because I had gotten beat up the first 2 days, got on the bike, and we had tailwinds.
Nice.
And I'm basically barely pedaling, and I'm going 16 miles an hour.
Nice.
And it was like, I wish every day was like this. So
it was a gift.
It really was. It was like, I think somebody was actually looking out for me that day because they knew how hard I'd taken it the first 2 days. So, and I was incredibly grateful for that.
Well, we know how passionate you are about Rotary and about this cause. So, we want to thank you for taking the time out to come about us and hang out and tell us some crazy stories.
I love doing this.
What do you got coming up next?
Well, okay, so I'm from a fairly small club, and we used to do an auction every year, and it was a pretty successful auction, but it's a tremendous amount of work. So I challenged my club this last year. I said, look, we're too small to do an auction on our own. And I said, we need to come up with something to raise funds that's fun to do. As members, we should have fun doing these things. I don't want it to be a burden. I don't want to have to be like fighting with people to get whatever done. And so I said, we need to think outside the box. I already know that, mouse races, you can make some money on those, and some places can do really well, some places not so well. Golf tournaments, we never had really good luck with golf tournaments. Again, you make a little, but not a lot. And it's a lot of work. And then again, the auction, the one thing I hate about auctions is going out and asking for donations all the time. And it's hard to do. It's just wasn't my thing. So I said, we need to think outside the box. So one of the things I sort of was just throwing out there, I said, a few years ago I was driving across Montana, and I pulled into a gas station, and I looked up, there was a bar next door, and it had a sign that was pretty wind damaged, but it said, Bikini Bull Ride Thursday nights. And it's Thursday. So I'm thinking, I'll ask the attendant about this.
You have to ask questions.
So I asked the gas station attendant, I said, hey, tell me about the bikini bull ride. And he goes, oh, no. He goes, that sign's kind of messed up. It was something bikini on one night of the week and bull riding on Thursday. And I'm like, I like my idea better. So I just kind of threw that out there just as an idea, something different. And there was a couple of my club members who were like, oh, we love that. We need to do that. And I'm like, really? And I'm not kidding. Like this one woman, literally within a couple of days had, because I was like, you can rent electronic bulls. She had 2 places I could rent from, how much it was, the space it needed for it to do it. And I'm like, and then we meet at Zapata's restaurant. The manager heard us talking and he goes, why don't you do it here? We'll give you the restaurant for a night. I'm like,
okay.
So, we are going to be hosting the first bikini bull ride that I know of that has been done this side of the Mississippi. It has been done. I actually found out today a second location, one in Texas and one in Vegas. Go figure. Yeah. But as far as I know, this is the first time that bikini bull ride has ever been done this side of the Mississippi.
Nice.
Crazy. And I think it's going to be, we're going to have fun doing this. And if anyone starts saying, that doesn't sound so Rotarian-like, I'm going to say, hey, we're doing it for the kids. Because a lot of this is going to go, I want to see a good chunk of this go to the Belize Children's Project, which is another project I really strongly believe in. More so than ever now that I've actually been helping out with a child over in St. Louis, make it to hydrotherapy at the Kirkwood Y. And what a joy it is. These kids are wonderful kids. He's here with his mom right now. And he's a great kid. I'm really glad that we're able to help him out.
That's awesome.
I want to make sure we're able to keep doing that. And I want that program to be funded as well as we possibly can fund it. So,
nice.
And so this year that's going to be, I said last year polio was my big thing and it will continue to be my big thing, but the Belize Children's Project needs to be a big thing for us too. So.
Well, you're going to have to keep us in the loop. You are obviously welcome anytime.
Yeah, we'll keep everybody posted on.
We're going to need video.
We are going to actually live cast it.
Oh my goodness.
Now, because and I will tell you, we've been sitting down. So part of the reason I was a few minutes late getting here was that I was sitting with a couple who are helping me with some of the planning on this. That they're not Rotarians yet, who have a lot more experience in promotions than I do. And one of the things that I was saying is, we are having people in bikinis and also men. Also we'll be getting on the bull in bathing apparel of some sort. Hopefully not a borax suit.
Yeah, that would be good.
But we don't want to have any kind of incident. So we are actually going to have 2 rodeo clowns with blankets just in case there's any wardrobe malfunctions.
Oh my goodness.
But we are also going to send that one out so everyone can watch it. If this works this year, we know it's a first time we've ever done this. It's a learning curve. But if we feel like we've put on a good show, that people enjoy it, that it's something that we want to do it again, next year we're going to go big. So we'll really knock it up a whole notch. We have ideas already. We just got to get through that learning part. I mean, I've never been on a bull. Have y'all been on a bull?
No. Hey, just for the record, I got a neck thing. So
Oh, that's right.
That's right. He might tell you, I can do that. Don't want to do that.
I think I'm 5, a perpetual 5-year-old. It doesn't work that way.
So, having been somebody who water skied out
yeah.
I probably am not the smartest person to listen to on this, but I will probably get on it to try it out. So
cool.
And we're inviting everyone to come out, and we'll have the riders who are going to be in bathing suits and bikinis and whatever, but then also the general public.
Sure.
Yeah.
Will also have time to ride, and they can also win a cash prize by having the most memorable ride. So,
very cool.
Challenge us. Let's see what memorable thing you can do on
challenge accepted.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people saying, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Well, and as we get information, we'll post that with the video.
Absolutely.
We'll get links to things as they pop up, and we'll get all that done. A couple things with our club coming up. April 4th, we have our social at the Weingarten in Belleville. We're also hosting a trivia night April 27th at the O'Fallon VFW, and that's gonna we're doing that with the Scott Air Force Base Rotary Club, and that's gonna support some of our efforts for District 90 security upgrades for the schools and the kids. They're going through a multi-phased security upgrade for all the schools, and we're trying to help out as much as we can to raise funds for that. So that's a couple things that we kind of have upcoming for our club, and anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple quick things. I got a chance to meet Mr. Mark Maloney, president of Rotary International this weekend. What a joy. We've got some crazy things coming in the district. I started a public image committee with Jill and Megan and Janice. The current governor line is definitely supportive in everything that we do, and they're pushing social media. So they love this kind of stuff. So that I'm in heaven when I see that kind of stuff. But couple quick things. I know Tim, who is part of the Belize program. His wife was having some health issues, so we want to say we want to send out some good vibes your way. Also, Miss Marilyn Matthews, we love you very much and hope you're doing good. Other than that, I won't beat you guys up. Land of Lincoln Pets was awesome. Learned a lot. Got to talk a little bit, as usual.
Yeah.
And I found out I'm actually presenting on the 27th at the District Assembly.
What?
So,
March
look at you.
April.
Oh, so that's the same day as...
Oh yeah, same day. So be prepared. Long day for you.
Yeah.
So April
That's gonna be
27th, District Assembly. Other than that, I think Gary Ham, who's the governor coming in after Janice, he's crazy nuts and awesome and just a ball of energy. And
Can I say that Gary, when I was down at his club and I told him about the bull ride, I think he's going to be coming up from Metropolis for it. So my goal is to get him on the bull.
Gary, we need a video. But other than that, dude, and the last thing, since we've chatted, I just wanted to show off a little bit. Our club won the presidential citation last year, and we got it. So,
Nice.
I just wanted to kind of show that off.
There it is.
Former past president Ian Risley, who, just for the record, Red Sox fan. Just saying.
Okay.
I'm going to say for the record, he is also one of the just incredible people who I met on the ride. He was at the finish line wearing a shirt that I had given to him 9 months earlier in Springfield
awesome.
at the Zone Conference.
That's awesome.
So, great guy. He and his wife both.
I'll hunt down some pics and we'll throw them on there.
Yeah, we'll get them on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ralph, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for sitting down with us.
Bubba.
And thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Next time. We'll see you later.